Hello, kings and queens, and everybody in between. Welcome back to another episode of the Ascending with Ashley podcast. And I am here with our favorite witch, Dani. How are you, babe?
I am so good. This is soul cup filling time for me always. So I'm so happy to be
hmm
here.
It really is soul cup filling time, just being able to kind of chit chat and gab. And friends, Danny and I were figuring out which episodes we wanted to drop for this one today. And we landed on something that was a little off plan in true Sagittarius fashion, LOL. We decided out of all the Astro tea to bring you, we wanted to bring you kind of almost like a forecast, a look ahead. It's the end of August. By the time you're listening to this, it's probably the butt end of August. We're moving into fall season. We're in transition period. What can we do to do our big one, for lack of a better word, for the last little bit of the year, closing out this hermit year? Let us not forget. So, we're looking ahead in the astrology today. And I think I want to kind of get right into it and kick it off with eclipse season. So, eclipse season starts in September. We
Hmm.
have we have a total lunar eclipse, believe it or not, friends, at 11:11 a.m. That's Pacific Standard Time, but it's still 11:11 somewhere. That is in September, so August 22nd, I'm sorry. And then yeah, or is that August 22nd? No, 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 no.
September. So I've got
7th.
September 7th. Yep.
So do I. Okay,
Yep.
great. And then new moon in Virgo, September 21st, which is a partial eclipse.
Hmm.
So I think we should start by saying the things we've heard about eclipses. I don't know about you, but
Okay.
I have heard so much. Be careful with eclipses. Don't practice magic on eclipses. Eclipses bring chaos. Eclipses, almost kind of like there's this negative overtone when eclipse season comes around in the spiritual community. What are your thoughts on that?
This is one of my favorite subjects to talk about, teach about, talk about with you. I make
Yeah.
a point to bring this up every single eclipse season, and I am never going to stop bringing it up every single
Yeah.
eclipse season.
Yeah.
Because every single eclipse comes with this, in my opinion, just super unnecessary fear mongering. I just think it's
Yeah.
unnecessary. I just think it's
Yeah.
excessive. And I think that there's a way to go about explaining the difference in the energy inside of an eclipse portal than just giving this like fear based blanket statement, stay inside, lock your doors, don't pick up a magical tool, get your crystals out of the window, and basically hide under the covers until the eclipse portal closes. And I'm just like, that's not only unnecessary, that's so unrealistic. We all have to go
Right.
on living our lives. We're going to continue being witches through the eclipse portal. And honestly, that's how I feel about this, and that's how I approach this every time. I am blessed that I came through the astrology door, through the witchcraft door first. Because if
Yeah.
you started learning energy from a witch first, and this is no offense at all to the astrology community, but when an astrologer teaches manifestation, it is very, very different than when a witch teaches spell work and working with energy because there is an entire branch and umbrella of witchcraft called chaotic magic, chaos magic.
Yeah. Chaos magic. Yeah.
And literally, people base their craft on unpredictable, out of left
Yeah.
field. They do their workings during eclipses specifically and during like Uranus transits and they
Mhm.
specifically work with the more electrified chaotic energy. And so when astrologers get up there and say your spell will go wrong, your manifestation will backfire, it's just a one scope view of what could happen. And there are so many magical practitioners who will tell you they practice like amazing, beneficial, successful magic under eclipses and charge their crystals under every single eclipse. And like
Mhm.
they're doing great in their magic. So that I just find it super, super unnecessary and quite frankly, inaccurate to say that
Yeah.
it's bad to practice magic under an eclipse.
Yeah, I mean, and witches are also making moon water and all of that good stuff. I think it really just depends on what you're looking for. I definitely will practice ritual and magic underneath an eclipse. I'll even practice ritual and magic that is trying to give me peace, that I want peace out of. I think the biggest piece to remember here is that we are the magician, a nod to the magician card in tarot. And yes, the elements are incredibly powerful. But as the magician, the alchemist, we are taking control over the elements that we're working with, if that makes sense. So, yeah, during an eclipse, things can be sudden. Eclipses can be transformative. Eclipses can bring on surprise. Eclipses can bring on chaos. But if your goal is to work with eclipse energy to give yourself peace, why not? You are the magician. So grab your
Mhm,
rosebuds, grab your bay leaves, grab your lemongrass, take a salt bath, go stand by water. You can still, because it's still highly concentrated energy. And I think that's the biggest piece people need to realize is when we're working with eclipse energy, we're working with a lot of energy. And so that's why you'll
mhm,
see a lot of witches wanting to practice or not practice underneath eclipse energy because we're working with more energy in the cosmos than normal. And
mhm.
it's all about perspective. For me, I take that as a blessing. Like, let's go. The veil is thinner. Let's do some work. Other people might be like, the veil is thinner. I'm gonna chill today.
Mhm. I think that's such a good point to bring up. And I think that that's where a lot of astrologers could be more efficient in how they deliver information about an eclipse because I will be the first to tell you that if you are in an overstimulated, over emotional, very ungrounded, scattered, not good place,
Yeah,
I'm going to be the first to advise to you maybe it's not an excellent day for manifesting
right.
ritual. Maybe what you need today is more of that grounding, is that dialing back. Maybe you're feeling really overwhelmed by the potent energy right now. And that was
Yeah.
the word that kept coming to me while you were talking and you were describing it. It's potent, it's concentrated, there's a lot of it. And that in and of itself can feel really overloading on your nervous system and just on your
Hmm.
energy in general. And so, if you're really spent, if you can tell you're not all there and not in your best place, then I don't care if it's an eclipse or not. That's definitely not a day that you need to be manifest. You know what I mean? Like, you can save that for a day when you're feeling on your game and in your element and there and
Exactly.
mindful and intentional. Yeah.
I fully agree with that. Okay, so we have a full moon in Pisces and a total lunar eclipse. So the eclipse is going to be happening in Pisces. Let's break this down. Let's talk about it. My water queen. What
Hmm.
are the
Hmm.
vibes, the general aesthetic, the feeling, the vibe for this specific eclipse that is really kicking off fall season, if you think about it.
Hmm.
And right in the top of September, we're just coming into the best season on Earth with the eclipse in Pisces. Whoa.
So, Virgo, uh, if you notice, um, each of the, oh my God, mutable, there we go. Each of the mutable signs, which is akin to their nature, transitions us into the next season.
Hmm.
So, Virgo is the last sign in the northern hemisphere of the summer season, technically. But really, Virgo season represents the both, the end of summer and the beginning of fall, exactly like you're saying.
Yeah.
Virgo, as a mutable sign, helps us cross that bridge from one season into the next. So you already kind of have these crossing the bridge, walking through the portal vibes. And
Hmm.
then you put an eclipse in Pisces in that
I know.
energy at the same time. And it feels like I get these images of all of us like summer fairies, and like we all cross through this time and you just see like us like transform into that, like into the fall,
Yeah.
getting ready for the dark, for the more refined, for the quieter, for the more still. You and I were just talking right before we started recording about like socializing burnout. And I think
Yeah.
that that is one of my biggest signs that I can tell we're getting to the end of summer is
Yeah.
when my social battery like ramps. I think this is for lots of us. My social battery like really expands and ramps up for most of
Hmm.
summer. For me, like I'm not, like for me.
Yeah.
uh but then toward the end is when I start noticing more and more that like those experiences like tire me out a lot easier. I'm
Yeah.
craving that alone time a lot more.
Hmm.
Like we're going from like our summer sparkly in the light
Yeah.
fairy energy into like our like deep witchy cloaks. You know what I mean? And like
Yeah.
step, and I
Yeah.
feel like this eclipse can be, I have like chills. It can be that magical feeling full moon eclipse. I think that plenty of emotions will be high. It's a full moon in Pisces, and
Yeah.
then it's an eclipse. So I would tell you embrace any tears that come and give yourself a way to express any like big excitement or big anger or frustration that comes through. Give your emotions a place
Hmm.
to go. But for the most part, I think that this full moon total lunar eclipse in Pisces can be as magical as it feels if you just like tune into that in your environment. Do you know what I mean?
I do. I do. I also personally love to, and I love to tell my people any sort of Pisces energy, especially eclipse in Pisces energy, is a great time for channeling. Talking to, the alien bays out there, folks that are digging into the Akashic records, other dimensional work, astral projection type work, you know, um, I mean, if you're down, it'd be a great time to eat some shrooms and go play in the forest, honey, and let the fairies quite literally talk to you. Pisces is one of my favorite zodiac signs because they're so lackadaisical and whimsical and up in the clouds and artsy and open and free and fresh. You know, um, Pisces energy is also known as the martyr, giving the shirt off their back, even though they don't have a shirt, that type of energy. But I think even more so, the Pisces is just so deeply rooted and connected to their oversoul, to spirit, source, God, universe. In my experience with Pisces and people that have a lot of Pisces placements, it is natural to them. They don't
Hmm.
really have to work for it. There are some people that are like, I've been meditating for years and I still can't quiet my mind. With a Pisces, that sort of soul work is like a second home. And so I always urge people that are looking to work in other dimensions and other worlds and really working to experience astral projection in its entirety, the plus or minus a couple of days before, after, and right on a full moon eclipse in Pisces is a great, great time. Starting out maybe the top of the week, getting your 5 minutes in, the next day, six, the next day, seven, and so on and so forth. Because it could be a really great time to be in receiver mode, as Pisces is a feminine sign, aka a receiving sort of energy of any downloads from spirit, especially around like things that may be happening in your life. Maybe you're struggling with job decisions, or should I stay or leave my partner, or should we adopt? I mean, the amount of questions that come across, I'm sure yours and my door, when it comes to spiritual work and how to do life is endless. So if you're one of those people listening that's kind of at a crossroads or has a lot to think about or is really looking to connect with spirit, this specific eclipse is a really great time to binaural beats. is really kind of
Hmm.
dig into that, like that second skin almost. If that makes sense. Get out of the
Yeah.
3D.
If you, whether or not you have Pisces placements, this advice holds. But if
Mm-hmm.
you heard how Ashley described Pisces placements and you are someone who doesn't feel like those things come naturally to you, I have found that there's usually some sort of spiritual trauma or religious trauma,
Mm-hmm.
often in childhood, sometimes in other lives, but sometimes that childhood wound can also like represent a past life wound as well.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go childhood on this one because inner child and Pisces energy just like
Go hand
go.
in
It's just
hand.
such a
Yeah.
yes, like perfect. This is a good time if you have any of those blocks. Again, if you have Pisces placements or not, this eclipse could be a really good way to unpack that, shine some like magical light in on that, do that
Mm-hmm.
inner child work, like where was that like where did that doubt and magic come from? Doubt
Mm-hmm.
and spirit, that block kind of a thing. I've had a few students and clients with very similar experiences like this, and there's some sort of childhood memory that's associated with that's when I learned that magic wasn't real. That's when this was taken away from me, that kind of a thing. And this, that can be really deeply healing and liberating kind of inner child soul work to do for this particular eclipse, really opening yourself up to
Yeah.
the magic and the spirit of life. Mhm.
Yeah, I fully agree. I fully agree. And friends, like even if all of this isn't your cup of tea, but you want to celebrate, just light a candle with intention. Remember, like Danny and I love to make magic simple, and attainable, and for you to feel like you don't have to go to your local witch store and buy hundreds of dollars worth of crystals. Because although we're both crystal babies, we know that they can get quite expensive. Do what you can, but it's all about intention.
Mhm.
Practicing in the spiritual realm is all about intention. So if you light that candle with intention and you're just like, I'm thanking the God, the goddess, the whoever, the whatnot for this full moon today, or I ask that the energy of the moon brings me X, Y, and Z, go there. Or even if it's just gratitude, right? Lighting your candle and saying three
Mhm.
things that you're deeply grateful for. Just, practical ways. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, so okay. So we have a new moon in Virgo on September 21st.
Mhm.
Now, tell me, Danny, if I'm wrong here. I could have sworn we also have a new moon in Virgo on August 23rd.
We do. This is one of those
That's what I
special things that
thought.
happen.
Yes, let's talk
Mhm.
about it. Let's talk about it. So this
Mhm.
happens like
This is
once a
one of those
year, I
special
feel
things.
like.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
hmm so it's
Basically,
yeah, go for it.
oh, you go ahead, Ash. You explain how
I
it
I was
basically
just
works.
gonna Well, so I was just going to explain that what we're talking about in case you guys didn't catch what Danny and I just went through. On August 23rd, which this episode should be out before then, we have a new moon in Virgo. And then we have another new moon in Virgo on September 21st. Normally, the moon patterns, if you're totally unfamiliar, that's not how the moon works. The next new
Mhm.
moon would be in the sign after Virgo, which is in Libra. That is what we would expect, but it's not happening. And tell us why, Daddy.
So this is one of those beautiful parts of astrology that shows us none of these planets, none of these celestials, none of their orbits are perfect. None
Mm-hmm.
of us are shaped exactly as a sphere. None of the
Mm-hmm.
orbit patterns are perfect to an exact degree. There's this wiggle room that happens. And
Mm-hmm.
essentially, what happens is for anyone new, the reason that this can happen twice is because the first new moon in August will happen at 0 degrees of Virgo,
Mm-hmm.
fresh into Virgo season. The sun will be at 0 Virgo, the moon will be at 0 Virgo. When it's time for our next new moon, which is also a partial solar eclipse, The moon is going to technically be in Virgo still, but at the 29th or the very last degree of Virgo. And like Ashley said, this happens about once a year. We get like a double header like this where we get like two new moons in one sign or two full moons in one sign. I always explain it as like we get a big oomph in Virgo lessons right now. Like we're
We do.
really, really supposed to be like moving through some Virgo shit right now. And I think what's really cool about this one in particular is that because the first new moon is at 0 degrees, which is like fresh, pure, undiluted, like Virgo
Yeah.
energy, anything at 0 degrees is like undiluted, unjaded, just very in the essence of that energy. So it's just
Mm-hmm.
very Virgo-y Virgo for this new moon. It's
Mm-hmm.
also like new beginnings, very first, like planting some extra seeds maybe. And for this final new moon in Virgo, because it's at the 29th degree of Virgo, the last degree, and it's an eclipse, this, even though it's a new moon, which is still, this will still be a great time to set some intentions if that's what you're called to do. But this is also a particularly good new moon for some release, actually, and sending some shit that you've learned throughout Virgo season into that eclipse portal and letting that shit fucking go is real. I saw this
Yeah.
as a particularly shedding type of new moon for our September new moon.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, especially because Virgo, I was talking about this in my community the other day. Like Virgo energy gets a bad rap. Nobody really wants to deal with Virgos, they're uptight, etc., perfectionists. But I think there's so much that so many of us can learn from Virgo. Like I know as a Sag, we fly by the seat of our pants like, whoa. That's like, it's our Achilles heel and our greatest attribute, right? The fact that we can move on the fly is amazing, but also petrifying for somebody who is Virgo energy. They don't know what to do with us. We tweak them out. And one personal thing I've learned from people with Virgo, people that are Virgos that have a lot of Virgo energy, is it's important to pay attention to detail. Paying attention to detail is a very important thing. Maybe not all the time. You don't always need to be perfectionist, but it is kind of important, especially if you run your own business, especially if you do a job that's quite meticulous, right? We can't just like call it good and say we did it. Sometimes that works, but not all the
Hmm.
time. And Virgo gives us those lessons, right? Especially when it comes to our journeys through wellness, whether it's spiritual wellness, physical wellness, financial wellness, romantic wellness, whatever the fuck it is, right? On this path to getting to understand who we are and what we have to offer in this world. You're going to need to pay attention to all the detail to really
Hmm.
understand who you are and what you have to offer in this world. So I love that you said that, especially, speaking a little bit to the numbers of it all. When you mentioned, Dani, that we're starting at 0 degrees. Remember, friends, there's 30 degrees for every sign. And so it's quite important that we're starting in August at 0 degrees. The sun's going to be at 0 degrees of Virgo, or the moon, I should say. Um, because that 0 to 10 mark is often kind of thought of as like a baby deer, right? It's like, we're still trying
Yeah.
to figure it out. We're in the beginning lessons of Virgo. So, to put it in layman terms for you all, Virgo energy, we'll use one of their like most known attributes that they're a perfectionist, right? Somebody who is born with their sun sign between 0 and 10 degrees of Virgo, maybe they subconsciously do perfectionistic shit. They don't realize they're kind of like that, but it's a thing that they do. And then somebody that might be born with their sun between 11 and 20 degrees of Virgo, they realize they do it and they're okay with it, and they subject everybody and their mom to their perfectionism. Whether they're a neat freak, whatever it is, everybody's got to abide by their rules at all times or they blow a gasket.
Hmm.
And then, when they're born in that 21 to 30, 29 degrees of Virgo energy, they have recognized that although their perfectionism is okay in some moments, it's taking away from their quality of life. So they find that beautiful balance. And guys, you can find all these numbers on your actual natal chart, birth chart, and or
Hmm.
hire a professional astrologer like Dani or myself to help you read it. Shameless plug.
This
But
is so important and something
mhm,
that, and this is no shade to any beginner astrology book,
yeah,
workshop, whatever. But the truth is is that because there's so much in astrology, this
Yeah,
conversation gets put off for way too long for
it
most beginning
does.
astrologers.
And it's important. The
That's,
numbers are important. The
yes,
degrees are
thank you.
important. Yeah.
I think that people, I'll be honest, this is just like a mini astrology after dark tangent, but it's so fucking
Hmm.
true. I think that so many people just assume, oh, it's just going to be too overwhelming for people. Don't give them the numbers. And like,
Yeah,
people will surprise you, and people are smarter than you think.
they
And
are.
honestly, learning the modalities and learning the degrees probably were the
Yes.
two little, to speak on Virgo, the two little details
Hmm.
that kept getting glossed
Speak on it,
over.
honey. Hmm.
But then once I learned them, the amount of connections that finally fucking came, that's when I started
Yeah.
being able, my friends, to read this, to look
Yeah.
at art. And I'll never forget the day I was looking down and I was like, oh my God, I understand what I'm looking at. I'm like
Yeah.
understanding and I'm
Yeah.
saying it and it's just happening. And all of a sudden, and that happened because two details kept getting swept over and glossed over, and people assume like, oh, we don't need those details right now, when really
Hmm.
they are some of the like missing pieces that you usually need. So don't be,
They
when,
are.
if you are an aspiring astrologer and you listen to podcasts like this and you hear people talk about the numbers and you start going, oh, I don't have to, challenge yourself and do go
Just
there
listen.
and do
Yeah.
learn about that stuff. Look at stuff, because it was stuff like this that taught me the most. I would start
I
looking at
agree.
astrology and I go, wait a second, we never have two new moons in the same sign in a row. I'll never
So then
forget
what
the
are we
first time that
doing
I
with
learned
it?
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Me neither,
Yes,
actually.
that's
Yeah.
how, yes, exactly. So
Hmm.
this is such a, not only is there plenty of like meaning to interpret out of this
Yeah.
new moon cycle, this is a really good study opportunity, honestly. Like if you
Yeah,
are
it
an
is.
aspiring astrologer, this first new moon in August, and then really intentionally paying attention to the next new moon in September and comparing and contrasting those is going to teach you so much about the degrees in astrology, because you are
It
going to be like,
sure is.
oh, a new moon at 0 degrees of Virgo looked like this.
Right.
Here's what a new moon at 29 degrees of Virgo looked like.
Right. And that also speaks to you saying how you're looking at this as a way to shed or let go. Because when you get to the 29th degree, remember the perfectionist example, friends, when we're at those last 10, that's when we realize, oh, I do have these qualities about myself. Now let's find balance in these qualities. Like they can all exist, they can coexist, right? And so I agree with you. I think it's this idea of recognizing when and where in our lives are we being, I hate using the term too much because too many women have been affected by that term negatively. I think what I really want to say is when our type A personality is taking over. And I think we all can be a little type A, especially if you're in the entrepreneurship world. You kind of have to be, you know what I mean? You make your own schedule, everything's got to be on your own. And so it's almost kind of like, okay, when do I have a free day? When am I taking myself too seriously? That's a big one, right? When am I allowing space to just laugh? I love my Virgos, but sometimes you just have to loosen up a little bit. You know, like it's all going to be okay. We're going to figure it out, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
I have very few Virgo placements, but during this time period, I often look at this. I honestly look to my Capricorn energy because I have so much Capricorn, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you are somebody that has very few or no Virgo placements, remember we all have all the we all have all the zodiacal energies. Some of us more than others. And so because I don't even think I have anything in my Virgo, I definitely kind of look to clean up shop in my seventh house, which is where like five planets are living for me in Capricorn. And Capricorn is a lot like Virgo in this idea of I gotta be working all the time, I gotta be on the grind all the time. Personally, friends, what I love to do around this, any sort of Virgo energy, is create more space for relaxation, just like more
Oh
space for
yeah.
like bed rotting, turning my phone off intentionally, and like noticing when I try to go pick it up to check emails. Like any high strung activity, I pay more attention
Yeah.
to try to calm that down and really soothe my soul, you know?
Mm-hmm. Especially because this is a time that will confront you with, because this is what happens for me, it will confront you with, wow, I'm really uncomfortable with relaxing. It's like
Yeah,
really fucking hard for me to
girl.
sit still. Like, holy shit, it's hard for me to let myself have fun for no other
Yeah.
reason than to have fun. It sometimes
Mm-hmm.
spills out so bad. This is the fucking curse of being an entrepreneur sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it spills out so bad, even when I'm cleaning my house, like I'm
Yeah.
doing chores, and I'll be like, I should be making content right now.
Yeah.
And I'm
All the
like,
time.
Jesus, let yourself.
I get you so hard. That's me with the gym. It's like I can't just have a fucking lift. I've got to film some part of it. Just put your phone down and enjoy your lift. Put your headphones
Yes,
in and just enjoy it. Enjoy it.
yes.
And like you said, that's totally an entrepreneur, virtual entrepreneur situation. Age of Aquarius. A nod to the Age of
So,
Aquarius right now. Yeah. Yeah.
so true. Oh my God.
Hmm.
Yeah, this will be, I am very intrigued to see the other side of this eclipse season now that we've talked
Me
about it
too.
here
Me
on this
too. Me
episode.
too.
Yeah.
And I definitely want to do a biz episode with you too. You guys let us know in the comments whether you're watching it on the video or even in Buzzsprout or DM one of us if you want an episode of just like how we started our businesses and like what it is like to be a content creator, entrepreneur, all of that. And even Danny, you and I have had conversations like that moment when you realize that you are a content creator, dare I say spiritual influencer. It's like, oh, it's a weird tone, but it's true. If you create spiritual
Hmm.
content, that's what you do. Um,
Yes.
yeah, and you guys know I love talking business stuff. So if you want that, let us know and we'll do something like that towards the end of the year for you.
Oh, yeah. I would love
Hmm.
an episode like that.
Yeah, just kind of kikiing, give you guys a peek behind the veil of
Yeah.
what it's
Well, we would
really
talk about
like.
anyways. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you said, Danny, though, like everything is content in our world. So it is, it's hard to turn it off. It's hard to be like,
Yes.
okay, we're we're done. It's wild, very fascinating. Okay.
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm really excited for all this Virgo energy that's coming in the next couple of weeks. Again, by the time you guys are listening to this, we're probably in it, or getting ready to be in it. I just think it's needed, in a lot of ways. So,
Yeah.
okay, so switching gears just a little bit, I wanted to talk a little bit about the retrogrades we have coming up. So September, it kicks off eclipse season, and then we move into a series of soul work with the outer planets, I'll say. And to kind of jog your guys' memories, we have, our big three, sun, moon, and rising. Then we have the personal planets, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. And then, some astrologers will call Saturn and Jupiter outer planets. They'll clump them in with Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Some astrologers will keep them on their own. I go back and forth. It takes Jupiter 1 year to go through the astrological wheel, and then after that, the time gets farther and farther out as far as how long it takes these planets to move. Uh, Traditionally speaking, I do say that Pluto, Neptune, Uranus are considered outer planets, but either way, oh God, I wanted to kiki with you too about Jupiter and Cancer. Let's start with our retrogrades. Let's start there. So a retrograde, let's just bring it back to basics, babes. It is when a planet appears to be moving backwards from our POV of Earth. So let's say, for example, Mercury is in the sign of Leo. Let's say Mercury is in 10 degrees of Leo. And let's say Mercury goes retrograde on the 10th. These are arbitrary numbers, friends. We're just throwing them out. We will notice Mercury moving from the 10th degree to the ninth degree to the 8th degree to the 7th degree, so on and so forth during its retrograde period. Then eventually Mercury will station what is called direct. That means he stops moving retrograde and starts going forward again back into the sign of Leo. So a lot of astrologers will say when a planet goes retrograde, it's almost like a time to revise your work. Like if you
Mm.
remember doing those revisions in grade school and things like that,
Hmm.
let's run that back real quick. rest? Did we get everything we needed? Did we get all of our medicine? Do we feel fulfilled here? I often say retrogrades, no matter what planet we're working with, is just a time to slow down. And I say that from an American POV. We're always fucking moving, I feel like. This
Oh yeah.
economy is absolutely crazy. Everybody's got like five fucking jobs. Like, and holiday season's coming up. We're all just moving constantly. So, if anything, retrograde spaces are a time to be very intentional about everything you do, the clients you take on, the job opportunities you take on, where you travel, what time you wake up. Are you rushed in the morning? Stuff like that.
hmm I love this. I was probably my favorite place, that's how I should say it. My favorite place that I learned about retrogrades was from Colin Bedell of Queer Cosmos. And he
Hmm.
talks about how retrograde is a great time for re-examination, review. Um, I love that you use the word revise. That
Hmm.
he'll say like re-examination, re-evaluation, reconstruction, redefinition. It's this time where we can really take things apart
Yeah.
and put them back together better. That's what a retrograde cycle really represents to me. That going backwards is like
Mhm.
taking apart. And then when we station direct again, this is when we kind of put the pieces back together in hopefully a more efficient way.
Yeah.
Um, or a better serving way. I I find that retrograde gets way too synonymous with retrograde, everything's fucked up.
Yeah. I
Um,
agree.
and instead, try looking at dysfunction is occurring for a reason so that you have to look at said thing in a different way. That's the
Agreed.
unpacking, that's the revision, and that's what people honestly miss over most of the time because they get so hung up on the, oh, it's a retrograde, oh, all the mishaps. And it's like, but are you letting it change your POV? Because that's really the
Hmm.
ultimate purpose of it.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's very like cancel culture on retrogrades, right? And I hope you guys
Mhm.
can see, but I know we get new listeners every day. There's the witch work. We get new listeners every single day.
Mhm.
But those of you that have been with us for a while, you know what we're gonna say. There's a lot of fear mongering over retrogrades too, and it's just not the case. I think retrogrades are a beautiful time and space and time to re-examine how you feel about the themes that that planet is in retrograde in, or the sign that that planet is in retrograde in, right? And I know that's a mouthful, so let's talk about it. Let's break it down with real world examples. So now the first more important retrograde that I want to look at, I mean, we do have Pluto stationing direct first in October, but we were talking about retrograde, so we'll stay with them. So let's
Yeah,
see
we've got a
here.
couple stationing direct at the end of the year that are already retrograde. Like, don't get me wrong, Saturn has
Yeah.
been retrograde, started in July and will station direct in November. Pluto's going to station direct in October, like you said.
Hmm.
Um,
I
but
mean,
we also have some
November.
big stations, exactly, station retrograde. So even though we kind of have a bunch of planets almost switching places, it's like right when a bunch of planets station direct, a bunch station retrograde. So it's like
Well,
different
yeah,
parts of our
yeah.
lives, yeah, exactly, move
Looking at
forward into that
November.
rebuild, while other parts of our lives move into that revision, reevaluation period.
Yeah, and so looking at November, we've got Mercury and Jupiter going retrograde. And then a week and a half later, we've got Saturn going direct. So, I say let's talk a bit about Jupiter and then let's go into Saturn and then we can talk a bit about Mercury and Uranus. Um,
Yeah.
so Jupiter in Cancer has been such a vibe for me anyways. LOL. I'm a Cancer rising. And Jupiter's in my first house, so I'm going through a Jupiter return right now, which has been great for the pockets, honey. And so, and what they say, Jupiter is I call Jupiter Santa Claus. I like he gives Santa Claus energy, just big, jovial, happy, full of faith, expansion. Everything that Jupiter touches gets bigger and gets jovial, and there's an energy about Jupiter that just makes you happy. Um, Jupiter, Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter has been in Cancer for a while now, pretty much since like the top of the year, give or take, maybe middle of the year. Well, we're technically in the middle of the year, February, March. But now Jupiter's going to go direct or retrograde in the sign of Cancer. So I'm curious as to what your thoughts are on that, Danny. So Jupiter entering Cancer, right? My first initial thought, somebody were to be like, Ashley, what are your thoughts on Jupiter entering Cancer? In one sentence, I would say we are expanding our third eye. That's what I would say.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I get there from the fact that Cancer is known as the divine mother and one of the most intuitive signs of the zodiac. Anytime you're dealing with water energy in the zodiac, you're dealing with intuition, psychic abilities, things of that nature. And then we've got Jupiter that makes everything bigger. So no matter what's going on in Cancer, it's going to make it bigger. So you could also go to home life there too. But
Oh,
I
yeah.
yeah, yeah, you could dabble on that. But yeah, so now he's going retrograde in Cancer. So what are your thoughts there?
So, my take on Jupiter and Cancer has been this expansion of our emotional capacities and the way that we're
Mm-hmm.
able to cope with our emotional responses, or should I say, events and experiences that evoke emotionality from us.
Yeah.
And I think of this through the lens of the caregiver and the caretaker and the mother as
Mm-hmm.
well. I think of that like that archetype of mother with that never-ending well of patience. Like you can,
Mm-hmm.
the archetype of the divine mother, you can bring her anything to those waters. They're never ending. Um, Jupiter retrograde in Cancer could show us where some of our limits are, and that's not
Yeah.
necessarily a bad thing. That
Yeah.
might help us draw some non-negotiables or some boundaries or some helpful thresholds for ourselves because you're exactly right that um, because Jupiter is exalted or like functions really high in Cancer, it can almost inflate our sense of how much we can take on and how much we can give and how much we
Mm-hmm.
can do for others. And so Jupiter retrograde might be the way that we realistically like draw that in a little bit and recognize like,
Yeah.
oh, I am over giving here. I am
Mm-hmm.
overspending myself here. I do have while my emotions are this beautiful infinite well, like I'm a human with limitations and boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that to really piggyback off of the spiritual POV that you brought up, which is so important too, this goes very hand in hand with our spiritual work. And the same
Mm-hmm.
thing, especially if you are someone who considers yourself a healer or you provide spiritual services or spiritual
Mm-hmm.
goods of any kind, this is a time that because globally we are going through so much trauma and witnessing so much trauma,
Yeah.
people are seeking our services and our goods a lot more right now. We still have to recognize that we have boundaries. We still have to recognize that we have needs, that we need to be cared for as well. And this Jupiter in Cancer retrograde might be a time for turning some of that caregiving toward yourself. It doesn't mean taking it away from the people you're giving
Yeah.
it to, but means also redirecting some of it to yourself.
I fully agree. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. I love that idea too. I hope you guys are picking up on kind of like how we can use retrogrades, right? So because Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, it's almost kind of like when he goes retrograde in Cancer, it's like an all stop. Like, wait, I've got too many
Mm-hmm.
people on board. I got one too many people
Mm-hmm.
on board. Somebody's got to get off. And being okay with that, right? And being
Yeah.
okay with setting a boundary. I was just having a conversation with my cousin the other day on setting boundaries with people. And remember, like, friends, your boundaries are your boundaries, and there's nothing wrong with having a boundary with people. Even if you have family or friends that are like, what are you doing? If you need to do it, do
Mm-hmm.
it, you know? So I think it's
Absolutely.
super important.
Ash, use this break really quick. I gotta go see. I don't know what the hell she's doing. Hang on. I'll make sure
Okay.
Jared cuts this out. What? Where are
Okay.
you? Okay. Oh, you being good? Okay. Okay. That's a good girl. Okay. Just making sure, baby. She had an accident at the top of the stairs when I got home, so I was making sure that I wasn't walking out there to a shit show. Okay, we're good.
Oh yeah, no problem. I totally get it with new puppies. Rico Suave had um an accident this morning in the bedroom, but that's because he's fucking old and blind. I told you went blind, right?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah, we're getting used to it still, but
sweetie.
I know,
Talk
I
about
gotta
Jupiter
figure
and
out,
Cancer stuff.
girl, I
Seriously, that's
know.
so. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Rico got old on me in Jupiter and Cancer, but he's still kicking. So, yeah,
Mhm.
they said the blindness is not going to affect his longevity. He's just blind as all hell. So,
Okay. Yeah, just a new way of
okay.
caring for him. Yep,
It's
exactly.
exactly, it's a new normal. I got all my theatrics out, and when I tell you I was theatrical on the kitchen fucking floor crying by his bed bowl, by his bowl. I know
I
the
am
drama.
not even a little bit surprised, and
Literally,
I am with you. You should, yeah, trust me. Trust me. Trust
Manuel
me.
was just like, and then it was, I'm like, this is what needs to happen right now. And then of course, like, not to change it, sorry, Jared, but of course, like, I'm like super dramatic, and then Rico's just like this, just like like so frail because he's feeding off of me. So he's
Yeah.
just like, oh my God, I know it's so as soon as I got my shit together, his shit was together like that. He was going up and down the stairs by himself, letting us know he had to go outside by himself, like like 180. And I'm like,
Hmm.
oh my God, our animals really do feel our energy because my theatrics were out of this world and so were his. He was literally just like this. Somebody help me. And I'm like, oh my God, Manuel, look at him now. And then like, oh, like ridiculous. Then I got it together.
Oh
As
my
soon as
God.
she was like, he's not gonna die. Like I know plenty of blind dogs live forever. I was like, okay. He was fine. Walking around here, everything. Girl. Anyways, I know
Oh my God. That is
ridiculous.
such a good Cancer Rising story.
I know,
That is
I
amazing.
know. My fucking little familiar, man. Oh my God, I can't. So okay, I'm tapping too.
Okay.
Okay, so that was great. And feel like that was a great segue into we have a few minutes left. I want to talk about let's talk about Saturn and Uranus. Let's not talk about
Okay.
Mercury because friends, everybody talks about Mercury retrograde. You'll
Yeah.
probably hear one or both
We
of us talk about
have
Mercury retrograde anyways.
from now until then, we'll finish up and go through a whole entire retrograde in
Yes.
Mercury or Mercury
But
retrograde by the end of the year. Old
yes,
news.
but I
No
do,
offense, Mercury.
yeah. I know. I just do feel like these outers don't get a lot of attention. And like working with the outer planets, the generational ones or whatnot, can be really therapeutic,
Hmm.
especially a Saturn retrograde.
Hello, working with
Uh,
your elders, which I'm sorry is something very lost on our current society right
it
now. And this is
is.
happening for more than one reason. It's not
Mhm,
just the elders of our society's fault, it's not
mhm.
just the youth of society's fault. There's a big dysfunction there in general. But when we work with the outer planets, that's this representation of working with and learning from our elders because
Yeah.
those outer planets have seen some shit in their time that,
Mhm.
Pluto, for example, takes 248 years to make one full orbit around the zodiac.
That's
He's seen some
crazy.
shit on the way. He's got some
Right.
wisdom if you sit
Right.
there and are patient and listen. That's how I view working with
Pluto's
the
like the
outer planets.
crocodile. Pluto's like the crocodile of the solar system.
Yeah.
They've been or the cockroach. I like crocodile
Hmm.
better though.
I love that.
Yeah, they just are super old and have been around for quite some time. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about Saturn first. So Saturn is retrograde now, as you
Okay.
mentioned earlier, and Saturn
Retrograde
goes.
almost in tandem, by the way.
Mhm.
Right, like Saturn and Neptune are just in this fucking dance right now.
They're like Irish
They,
twins.
yes, perfect
Hmm.
analogy.
Yeah,
Yes, they're like
yeah.
Irish twins. They're not twins. They're not
Right.
literally, you know what I mean? But
Hmm.
they are right up on each other, and their retrograde cycles almost line up.
Yeah.
They're both
Yeah.
in Aries, and they're both only one to like a handful of degrees from each other at any given time throughout this, which is, and they're both, Saturn is like an in between. Saturn can be an outer planet, not really an inner, it's
Saturn
not
is
really
this
an
weird in
outer.
between. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Neptune's an outer for sure. Neptune's
Yeah.
a slow mover, but
Yeah.
they're both in Aries. And I want to ask you first, what do you feel about this Saturn in Aries and Neptune in Aries, both right next to each other and doing their retrograde together? Because that's
Well,
just
a lot.
so, yes.
I feel bad for the Saturn return kids because I feel like their Saturn return has just been a bunch of push and pull. Like, devil on one side, angel on the other, because we're dealing with such polar opposite energies. You got Aries in the mix that just gives no fucks. And then you've got Neptune that is like dancing on clouds until never comes. And then you've got Saturn, who's like this like workhorse,
Mm.
and everything needs to be in order. And
And by the
so,
book. Yeah.
and by the
Hmm.
book. So, with these three energies, I think the first thing that needs to be said is everybody needs to learn from one another, this trifecta of energies. I think Aries energy is going to be the most hard-headed when it comes to that. But I think at its root, Aries energy is about leadership. So, what do I think about this? I think I think what's happening is the Neptune of it all is how to be more action oriented, instead of flippant, right? Neptune energy can be a little flippant. And there's nothing wrong with that. Neptune energy can be a little in the clouds, daydreamy. And, not to change it too much, but I think that's the biggest issue with pop culture's version of manifestation. It's all daydreamy. We're not taking any inspired action to get the manifestation done, to actually bring it
Mm.
into the 3D. We're just dreaming about the manifestation, which isn't enough. And that's where our dear friend Saturn comes in. So
Hmm.
Aries, is our energy of I have the idea, right? And so these planets are sitting underneath Aries. So they're both incredibly influenced by Aries energy. This go get him to the point, fire under your ass, a little abrasive about it type energy, right? Very intense and in your face. Saturn alone in Aries, like a Saturn in Aries can, I mean, in my personal opinion, I feel like they might have a bit of a mean streak. Like there's no tact there. The Saturn in Aries, like, a little rough around the edges, a little
Hmm.
unpolished,
Hmm.
just woo! I'm just giving it to you straight, whether or not you like it. Sorry, not sorry. Yeah, and Neptune in the Aries energy is again, it gives me this very overactive imagination without any action behind it. And so I think just as with any Saturn return, this can be what you make it. You can still keep kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall, hoping for the best, which can very much be this sort of energy, these three planets together. I'm just going to throw spaghetti at the wall and see what happens. Or we can have structure, which is again what Saturn brings. Saturn teaches us, especially during our Saturn returns, how to create structure through the chaos. And I think with Saturn and Aries, that's exactly what's going on. And Neptune, because Neptune lives in chaos too. I think when I think of Aries energy, and I think especially like, you know, the the deacons, like the lower numbers of Aries, I think of that meme of like, the world burning down behind you and you're like off to go do something, that meme, like it's like off to go to the gym and the whole world's burning behind you. Like that's what I think of that. And then I also think when I think of Neptune, that other meme where you're like up in the clouds just dancing, like not paying any attention to what's going on. Saturn,
Hmm.
you never thought I'd say this, but Saturn right now is kind of like the light at the end of the tunnel. Because Aries and Neptune alone just gives me anxiety. Who's leading the ship? And not that I don't trust Aries to do it, but Aries sometimes isn't looking where they're going. They're just going. And that like and so that's it. That's in a nutshell how I feel about all of that. I think the retrograde, I'm thinking back to the things that I've done while Saturn has been this Aries retrograde. And I think the biggest thing for me is obviously going to be work related. It's going back to the roots of my business model, which has been the biggest one that I've spoken to about on your podcast and on mine. That is a very Saturn retrograde and Aries thing to do. Just
Hmm.
kind of going back to
Hmm.
basics and rebuilding structures and foundations to realign
Well,
better
especially
with the
for
goal.
us, we're
Mhm.
Saturn and Capricorn natally. So
Exactly.
we're like, that's what makes sense. Of course, that's what we would do
Mhm.
during Saturn retrograde. I
Mhm.
think for some people that struggle with structure, implementing structure, doing, I think that they'll feel
Yeah,
a little extra off kilter. And I think that when you have Saturn in Capricorn, which is where Saturn is at home,
right.
you are very naturally practical and like pragmatic
Yeah.
about things like that. And you're like,
Yeah,
oh, this is
pragmatic, good
naturally a good
word.
time.
Yes.
Yeah, this is naturally a
Yes.
good time. You know what? You know what kept coming to me when you were describing all of them was fucking
Mm.
Peter Pan. Over and over again, Peter Pan
Yeah.
energy is totally this
Very
Neptune and
Peter
Aries,
Pan.
first of all.
Very
Yes,
Peter Pan. Yes.
yes,
Yes. Yes.
because
No, I
Neptune
can't
is
unsee it.
already, yes,
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
Neptune is already very Neverlandy, but
Yeah.
when you put Aries veil over it, we're Peter
Right.
Pan, and I'm a
Hmm.
child leader of the children, but we're leaderless children because that's the whole point of it
Exactly.
here.
You're right.
It's like
Right.
those like early rudimentary concepts of what people assume like anarchy would be. You know what I mean? Like are the
Yeah.
Lost Boys being led
Yeah.
by Peter Pan and the Never Grow Up. But there's still this like feisty warrior energy, but it's in the name of getting to
Hmm.
play and never have
Yeah.
responsibilities. That is
Yeah.
total Neptune and Aries. And
Very
then
much
you have
so.
Saturn enter the chat and is
Right.
like, we've still got shit to get
What
done.
are we
There's
doing
still
here?
we've
Exactly.
yeah, exactly. And
So
I think the
true.
term inspired action you brought up is
Hmm.
so important because I think Aries itself brings inspired action to the table, and the problem is Aries can keep bringing just inspired action, and so you
Yeah.
start a project, here's the next new idea, here's the next new idea.
Right.
Saturn brings follow through.
Yeah.
And the truth is that follow through, my friends, is like the unsexy advice always, whether you're getting coaching for your business or healing work or how to revamp your house, whatever it is, follow through is where the hard work happens.
Hmm.
And you brought this up so importantly in the scope of magic and manifestation, because that's where people want to fucking stop. They don't want to do the follow through part. They just want to put their
Exactly.
wishes out there. They just want to dream it and say it. And then you don't understand why
Exactly.
you're trapped in Neverland and repeating
Right.
the same fucking loop over and over and over again. And
Right.
Saturn, I really think, is bringing we like we have to follow through in order for this shit to happen. And if it's not going to happen and you're not going to follow through, Saturn's going to be the reminder that's like, yeah, that didn't happen because you didn't follow through with it. That's why
Right.
Saturn has such a tough ass reputation, is not only is it the teacher, it's the reminder of your mistakes and why something went wrong with
Yeah.
the certain choices that you made. But the purpose of it is so that you can make more mindful decisions in the future. And so I agree. The end of this year with Saturn retrograde basically the same time as Neptune retrograde, and they're both in Aries. This is a good time for leaning into some of that magical, imaginative,
Mhm.
inspired action energy. But this is a good time to not forget to do the boring stuff. Do the
Exactly.
fucking work and it will pay
Right.
off. Hmm.
And that's the thing, dream big. That's what we want. This is how we manifest our wildest dreams. Like, dream big. One of my old mentors used to say, shit, of course I would forget it just now. Um, no rules, only energy. And at first, I
Mm.
didn't fully understand what she meant by that. But the more that she said it, the more I understood it. We put ourselves in rules and in boxes here in the 3D. Well, I could never make $1 million because nobody in my family's ever made $1 million. I don't even know what I do with $1 million. I can't make $1 million. No rules, only energy. How much money do you want to make? Okay, well, $1 million. You guys get what I mean? And so I kind of like apply that idea when I am in manifestation and when I'm looking at, my quarterly goals, my yearly goals, my monthly goals. No rules, only energy. And obviously, you want to make sure that you're a frequency match, right? If you're only making 50K a year, maybe let's not jump to $1 million, but let's let it be a possibility that you could make $1 million.
Yes.
And so that's the thing. We want you to dream big, but what Saturn brings it, which is really what we're saying, is the action behind the dream. Neptune only brings the fucking dream, honey. Neptune is here for a good time and a long time. And so then we need Saturn to kind of be like, okay, I want to make $1 million. That feels too far away. Let's start with doubling how much I'm making per year. What are some ways I could do that? Let's start there. Do I need to pick up
Hmm.
Uber Eats? Do I need to pick up Instacart? There's so many ways to make money now. Nod to Age of Aquarius. I just can't stop. There's so many ways to make money in this economy now, even though this economy is getting worse. Nod to Pluto and Aquarius. Done now. But yeah, and get me started on the politics of it all. But yeah, so
Oh my God.
girl, political astrology too. If you guys want that, we would do that only if you guys say you want it. Because I think you guys have noticed Danny and I try to stay away from politics, but I mustn't tell a lie. The politics of like what the astrology is looking like based on what is happening in our political system is wild. It's
Yeah,
wild.
and undeniable and right in front of our
Undeniable.
faces. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. It's
I had to
undeniable.
bring it up on my podcast too,
Yeah.
over the summer because I was like, listen, I'm not turning this show into a political show by any
Right. It's
means,
hard.
but
Yeah.
we're gonna talk about this sometimes because
It's the
it to
best
not
examples we
talk
could
about
look
it is
at.
literally going like this because that's how
Yes.
obvious it is
The-
right now. Yeah.
Literally. And, especially for those of you learning, these are fantastic examples of what we're talking
Hmm.
about, especially as it relates to generational astrology, some of the stuff happening, at least with the
Oh
USA
yeah.
and other countries in our political system. And we're only going to keep seeing some of these trends. Let us know. We
Oh
need
yeah.
your feedback. We're only going to do it if you guys say you
We're
want it.
for how much we've gotten to explore in this episode alone,
Hmm.
we have like scratched the surface.
Literally
Like
scratched.
scratched. We could
Hmm.
probably do a weekly series on this end of year astrology,
I
especially in just the
know.
outer planet right now,
Yeah,
because
the end of the year
so
is a
much.
lot.
Yes,
I
and
know.
not that's not in this like be scared of it way. That's in, I have said it probably since June, and I'm not going to stop saying it. This is a good time for building our resiliency to change and the
Hmm.
unpredictable right now.
I
Because
agree.
these outer planets are clearly indicating massive transition, massive transformation, very likely through the modality of things coming down and being rebuilt in a way that we probably can't even foresee. That's how kind of unpredictable, which is why building your resiliency to change in the unpredictable is really good. Listening to a show like Ascending with Ashley on physical and spiritual fitness is a
Hmm.
very, very good thing to be doing because physical exercise is one element of building your resiliency, for
It really
example. So,
is.
mental exercise and educating yourself and
Hmm.
challenging your brain, challenging your body, and then challenge your spiritual practice as well. Because the
I
more we
agree.
build some resiliency, I think that's some of the best advice we can take into
I
the
would
end of
agree.
the year, honestly, is to try
Yeah.
not getting too comfortable always being comfortable. It would be better
Yeah.
to build your resiliency to discomfort, quite
Yeah.
honestly.
I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. Oh my God. I think that's a great way to end it. It would be better to build your resiliency to discomfort. I think that is a perfect way to end this. And as Danny highlighted, we're going to be talking more about the end of the year astrology. There's so much to cover. We have to give our thanks and gratitude to the Hermit for this year and welcome in the Wheel of Fortune. Yes, the Wheel of Fortune year 2026. There's so much stuff. So, Danny's not going anywhere. Danny, let the people know where they can find you and support you.
You can always find me across all platforms at That Witch Next Door. I host That Witch podcast. You can join my monthly community membership, That Witch School. But you can find me blurbing somewhere on my podcast or social media at That Witch Next Door, and book a reading with me if you want to look at how you can kind of personally attempt and tackle this end of year too.
Awesome. Awesome. And you guys know where to find me. Ashley Michelle 90 Day, pretty much everywhere. Ashley Michelle 7 on YouTube. And you already know, share the episode, share it with a friend, share it with your neighbor, share it with somebody that loves astrology. And we will see you in the next one. Ciao, ciao for now.